Across the galaxy there were whispers. People spoke in low voices in markets, in taverns, and even in the dark corners of space stations. They spoke of a princess from a powerful alien empire, a princess who was blind. The rumor itself sounded harmless. After all, blindness was a weakness, but the way others spoke of her was different. They spoke with fear, not pity. They said her blindness was not weakness. They said her blindness was something else, something that made her more dangerous than sight itself. Traders claimed that when they entered her planet, they felt her presence before even meeting her. They felt as if their deepest thoughts were being touched, as if their secrets were being read. Some said they ran away without even speaking a word. Too afraid to look into her eyes, soldiers told darker stories. They said entire battalions stood frozen in her throne hall, unable to move, not because of chains or weapons, but because the blind princess walked slowly among them, smiling softly, and somehow knowing exactly who was afraid, who was lying, and who was planning betrayal. Some believed she could hear lies without sound. Others said she could sense the beating of hearts, that she could smell fear like a wild beast, and that no enemy, no matter how clever, could hide from her. Her people themselves did not treat her with love. They treated her with fear whenever her name was mentioned. Voices grew quiet whenever she entered a hall. Footsteps stopped. Her blindness had become her crown, and her silence had become her weapon. In the outer colonies, human pilots often laughed at the rumors. They said no blind woman could be a threat. They said fear was only born from ignorance, but deep down many of them wondered, how could so many different races across the stars speak the same way about her? If it was only a lie. It was on a cold night near the edge of the alien empire that one human, a pilot named Aaron, would learn the truth. His small ship had been hit by an asteroid storm. Its engines failed, its power drained, and with nowhere else to go, he crashed into the alien world that none of his people dared to enter. The moment he stepped out of his broken craft, silence surrounded him. The air was heavy. The sky was filled with strange glowing clouds, and he felt as if unseen eyes were watching him. Though he was alone, guards arrived soon, tall armored beings with glowing weapons. They captured him quickly and without words, and before Aaron could even protest, he was dragged through shining halls of black stone, halls that echoed with whispers until he was thrown before a massive door. The guards knelt, their heads bowed low. Aaron realized that whoever was behind that door was the one the entire galaxy whispered about. His heart pounded. Part of him wanted to laugh at the thought, but another part of him, the deeper part, felt real fear. The door opened slowly, light poured out like water, and then she walked in. The blind princess. Her steps were slow, but every sound of her movement filled the air like thunder. She wore silver robes that seemed to float. Her hair was long and black like the void of space. Her eyes were pale, empty, and yet Aaron felt them on him, as if she could see straight into his soul. The guards said nothing. They only trembled. Aaron felt his knees grow weak. He was not sure if it was fear or some strange force, but he could not look away. The princess stopped just a few steps away from him. Though she did not look directly at him, she tilted her head slightly, as if listening to something only she could hear. Then she spoke, her voice calm, soft, and cold. "You are not from here," she said. "You are human." Aaron froze. She had spoken the truth without asking a single question. The hall grew colder. The guards seemed smaller. And in that moment, Aaron understood why everyone feared her. It was not her blindness. It was the way she could touch the part of a person that no wall could protect. The part hidden inside, whispers, rumors, stories of fear. All of them were true. And now Aaron stood before the very mystery that haunted the stars. The blind princess. He did not know what would happen next, but he knew one thing for certain. His life would never be the same. The hall was silent. Only the echo of the princess's voice remained. Aaron felt small in front of her, as if the entire galaxy had suddenly pressed down on his shoulders. He had met kings before. He had spoken with generals and commanders, but this was different. This was something beyond power. It was presence. The guards kept their heads low. They did not dare to look up. Their fear was not for the human standing there. Their fear was for her, the princess who needed no eyes to see. Aaron forced himself to stand straight. His voice trembled, but he spoke. "Yes, I am human. I crashed here by mistake." His words sounded thin in the vast throne hall, but they carried honesty. The blind princess tilted her head again, her pale eyes never focusing yet never wandering. She seemed to listen to something deeper than words. Her lips curved slightly, not in mockery but in quiet recognition. You speak the truth, she said, and those 3 words were like chains breaking. The guards shifted uneasily. One of them muttered in fear, for it was rare for the princess to speak kindly to anyone. Aaron did not know why he bowed, but he did. Not out of fear, but out of respect. Something inside him told him she deserved it. Even though she was his captor, even though he was a stranger in her world, she deserved more than silence. The princess stepped closer. The silver fabric of her robe brushed against the cold floor. She raised her hand gently as if reaching for something unseen. She stopped only a breath away from Aaron. He could feel the air stir between them. You carry no hatred, she whispered. You are not like the others? Her words confused him, but before he could ask, the guards struck the floor with their spears. One barked, Enough! The human must be taken to the cells. Their fear had turned into anger born from the discomfort she created in them. But the princess raised her hand slightly and the hall froze. Even the sound of the guards' breathing seemed to quiet. No, she said softly. He will remain here. I wish to know him. The guards looked at one another, their eyes wide with disbelief, but none dared to disobey. They bowed lower and stepped back into the shadows. Aaron was stunned. Why would she, a princess feared by her own people, choose to keep him by her side? He felt uneasy but strangely safe, as if she had pulled him out of danger and into mystery. She turned and began to walk away, the flow of her robes moving like water behind her. Then she paused. Come, human, she said. Without looking back, Aaron followed. His boots echoed against the smooth stone. He passed golden walls carved with symbols of an empire he did not understand. Torches glowed without fire, casting strange shadows. Every step forward felt like stepping deeper into a secret no human had ever known. At last they entered a smaller chamber, round and dimly lit. The air was heavy with the scent of unknown flowers. At the center was a seat made of crystal. The princess sat gracefully, her blind eyes lifted as if they searched the sky through the ceiling. She gestured lightly. Sit, she said, and a stone chair rose silently from the ground. Aaron sat cautiously, his heart beating faster. For a long moment she said nothing. Only silence stretched between them. Then she spoke. Do you know why they fear me? Her tone was calm but sharp. Aaron swallowed. Because you can see without eyes, he guessed. A small smile touched her lips. They fear because I know. Not because I see, she said. I hear the weight of lies. I taste the shape of sorrow. I touch the sound of hearts they cannot hide from me. And so they fear me. Her voice was soft, but the truth inside it was heavy. Aaron leaned forward. Then you are not dangerous. You are only different, he said honestly. For the first time her expression softened. The cold edge of her presence melted slightly. Different, she repeated. As if the word itself was rare, she tilted her head. No one has called me that before. They only call me curse, shadow, or omen. Aaron shook his head. I don't see a curse, he said. I see someone who carries more than anyone should. The silence returned. But this time it was warm, not heavy. The princess studied him, not with her eyes, but with the strange sense that reached deeper than vision. She leaned closer. You are kind, human. I have not felt kindness in a long time. Outside the chamber, whispers filled the corridors. The guards murmured to each other. Their suspicion grew. Never before had their princess chosen to speak so gently to a prisoner. Never before had she allowed a stranger to sit in her private chamber. But inside, Aaron and the princess spoke quietly, as if the rest of the galaxy had faded away. In that moment, a fragile thread had been tied, a thread of trust between a human lost in a strange world and a princess feared by her own people. And though neither of them knew it, that fragile thread would soon shake an entire empire. The chamber was quiet. The torches flickered with strange blue fire. Shadows stretched long across the walls. Aaron sat uneasily on the stone chair, his hands folded, his mind racing. The blind princess faced him with her pale eyes that seemed to look beyond flesh, beyond walls, beyond worlds. She spoke slowly, each word carrying weight. You wonder why they fear me, she said. You wonder why even my own guards tremble when I walk. Aaron nodded. He could not lie, not in front of her. He felt that lying here would be useless, as if every false word would crumble before it reached her ears. She tilted her head slightly, listening to the rhythm of his heart. They fear me because I am blind, she said. But not blind as you understand. My eyes see no light. But my mind sees more than light could ever show. Aaron leaned forward, curious despite his fear. What do you mean? He asked. She raised her hand. Her fingers brushed the air gently. I hear what others hide, she whispered. A soldier may say he is loyal, but I hear the crack of doubt in his chest. A leader may shout with pride, but I taste the bitterness of his lies. They cannot mask themselves from me, and so they fear. For no secret is safe when I am near. Erin's breath caught. The stories, the rumors, all of them were true, perhaps even worse. She was not only blind, she was a mirror to every soul. She continued, her voice softer now. Since my birth, my people believed I was cursed. They said the gods punished us with a daughter who carried shadows in her eyes. They isolated me, they locked me in golden halls. They called me princess, but it was another word for prisoner. Her words carried no tears, but Erin felt the ache inside them. Her voice was steady, yet her heart spoke of loneliness carved deep through years. He lowered his eyes. That must have been hard, he said gently. For a moment silence stretched again, but then the faintest smile touched her lips, a smile fragile as glass. You are the first to say those words, she whispered. Others only tell me to endure, to accept, to obey. Erin looked at her pale eyes. He realized she was not a monster, not a curse. She was someone burdened by a gift she never asked for. The princess leaned closer, her voice a mere breath. Do you know the worst part, human? She asked. Erin shook his head slowly. The worst part is not the fear, she said. The worst part is the silence. No one speaks to me with honesty. No one looks at me as a person. They only bow, tremble, and whisper, I know their lies, I know their hatred. But I have never known kindness. Her words struck Erin like a blade. He remembered the way the guards bowed. The way they never met her gaze, it was respect built on fear. Not love, not care. He felt a surge of courage. Then let me be honest with you, he said firmly. I don't fear you. I don't see a curse, I see someone strong. Someone who carries more than any crown should. Her head turned slightly, her pale eyes widening as if surprised. She studied him without sight, reaching into the beating of his heart. The shape of his words, the weight of his intent, and what she found made her still. You mean it, she whispered. Almost in disbelief, Erin nodded. I mean it, he said, his voice steady. The princess's hands trembled slightly. The first sign of weakness she had shown. She placed them on her lap and took a deep breath. Then you're different, human, she said softly. Your heart is clean, I can feel it. It does not carry the poison my people do. Outside the chamber, faint echoes stirred. Footsteps, whispers of guards who lingered at the door. Their suspicion grew heavier. They could not hear the words clearly, but they felt something changing inside. Their princess, who had never smiled, was speaking to a human with gentleness. Erin felt the weight of their eyes even through the wall. They don't like me here, he said quietly. The princess's lips pressed thin. They will never like you, she replied. Because you are not broken by fear, and that makes you dangerous in their eyes. Her words chilled him, yet also warmed him, for he knew she had spoken truth. She leaned back slowly, her silver robes folding like water around her seat. You should not have come here, she said, her voice both warning and sorrow. Your crash was no accident. Fate brought you to me, and fate will not let you leave untouched. Erin's chest tightened. He did not know if her words meant doom or destiny, but he knew one thing. He had seen the secret behind the fear. He had seen the truth of the blind princess. She was not cursed, she was not monster. She was lonely, powerful, and dangerous not because of her blindness, but because of her honesty. And in that moment Erin realized something that shook him. He was the first human to speak with her, and perhaps the first person in her entire life to treat her not as omen, not as curse, but as a living being. The fragile bond deepened, invisible but unbreakable, and though the world outside still whispered with fear, inside that chamber 2 souls had touched. One of sorrow and one of kindness, neither knew it yet, but the galaxy itself would tremble because of that bond. The night was long inside the alien palace. Erin could not sleep. The chamber given to him was large but empty. Its walls shone with silver light yet felt colder than ice. Guards stood outside his door like shadows, their weapons humming low. He knew he was still a prisoner, yet he also knew something had changed. The blind princess had spoken to him. She had listened to him. She had even smiled faintly, and that was something her own people had never seen. Erin lay awake on the stone bed and thought, how could a person so feared be so lonely? The next day he was summoned again. The guards did not speak. They only guided him through long, glowing corridors. Every alien they passed bowed quickly, eyes averted, as if even speaking her name might bring punishment. Erin felt the weight of that fear pressing on him. When he entered her chamber, the princess was already seated, her silver robes draped around her like flowing water. Her pale eyes lifted as if searching the sky. Aaron bowed lightly out of respect. "Not out of fear, you returned," she said softly. Her voice calm, yet her tone carried surprise, as if she had expected him to resist. Aaron smiled faintly. "I had little choice." "The guards would not take no for an answer," he said, trying to lighten the air. To his relief, her lips curved slightly. "Your humor is clumsy," she whispered, "but honest." He sat down when the stone seat rose again from the floor. He studied her carefully, and then he spoke. "You said yesterday that no one has shown you kindness." She turned her head slowly toward him, her blank eyes somehow piercing. "Yes," she answered. "Kindness is rare here. Fear is easier." Aaron leaned forward, his voice steady. "Then let me be kind," he said. "I do not know your people's ways, I do not know your empire's rules. But I know this. Every person deserves kindness. Even a princess feared by her own world." Her breath caught slightly, a small sound in her throat. She was not used to hearing such words. Her hands trembled faintly, but she quickly folded them into her lap. "You are strange, human," she whispered. "You do not bow like the others. You do not tremble when I speak." "Why?" Aaron thought for a moment, then said, "Because I do not see you as curse or shadow. I see you as person." For a long moment, silence hung heavy. Then she tilted her head, listening deeper. "You are telling the truth," she said, her voice softer now. "Your heart is clear." Outside the chamber, the guards shifted uneasily. They could hear her voice lighter than usual, and that unsettled them. Whispers spread through the palace that their feared princess was speaking differently, as if the human had touched something in her that no one else could. Inside, Aaron continued. "Back home I was not special," he admitted. "I was only a pilot. I worked in the colonies. I traveled between stations. I had no throne, no power. Just a small ship and a sky to explore." The princess leaned slightly forward, her blind eyes fixed on him, though they did not see. "And yet you are here," she said. "Before me." Aaron nodded. "Yes, fate or accident." "I do not know," he replied. "But if it is fate, then maybe it brought me here for a reason." Her lips pressed into a thin line, her voice carrying both sorrow and wonder. "Perhaps that reason is to remind me that kindness still exists." Aaron's chest tightened. He wanted to reach out, but he held back. Afraid the guards would see. Afraid she might recoil. Instead, he simply said, "If you allow me, I will treat you not as monster, not as curse, but as friend." Her pale eyes widened slightly. The word struck her like lightning. "Friend," she repeated, almost as if it were a word from a forgotten language. "No one has ever called me that." Aaron nodded firmly. "Then let me be the first," he said. Her face softened. The weight of her presence lessened. For the first time, she looked less like an untouchable figure and more like a young woman, one trapped in shadows not of her choosing. But outside the chamber, the whispers grew darker. Guards muttered that the human was dangerous, that his words were poison. They feared what would happen if their princess changed, if she no longer ruled with fear but with something else, something alien to them. Hope inside. The princess placed her hand gently on the armrest of her crystal seat. "Human," she said quietly. "Your kindness is heavy. I am not used to it. It feels like a blade cutting through chains." Aaron bowed his head slightly. "Then let it cut," he said softly. "Chains are not meant to last forever." Her lips curved once more into that rare, fragile smile, and in that moment the chamber felt warmer. The silence no longer weighed down. It lifted, if only a little. Neither of them spoke further, but the air between them had changed. An invisible bond deepened. A bond born not of power, not of fear, but of simple kindness. Yet in the shadows of the palace, eyes watched with suspicion. Whispers carried like poison, and plans began to form. For the council could not allow their feared princess to be touched by the kindness of a human. The palace of the alien empire was beautiful on the outside. Its towers touched the clouds, its walls shone with silver and black stone, but inside it was filled with whispers. Fear moved through the corridors like smoke. The council of elders gathered in a hidden chamber, 12 figures in heavy robes, their faces covered, their voices sharp. They spoke of the blind princess. They spoke of the human who now sat in her chamber as if he belonged. "This cannot continue," one of them hissed. "The girl was born a curse. We kept her locked in shadow. And now a human has dared to give her hope." "Hope is dangerous," another said. "Fear keeps our people in line. If hope spreads, our control will break," they argued in low voices, but all of them agreed on one thing. The princess must be silenced. One of them leaned forward, his eyes glowing beneath his hood. We cannot kill her in the open, her power would expose us. But we can arrange an accident, something that cannot be traced, another voice spoke. And the human, he must be removed as well. He is the spark. If he remains, she will grow stronger. Their decision was clear. A plan was set, and in the silence of that secret hall, a death sentence was written without a blade. Meanwhile, Aaron walked again with the princess. They moved through the palace gardens. Strange flowers glowed softly in the darkness. The air was thick with the hum of alien insects. The princess touched the petals gently as if she could feel their colors through her hands. Aaron watched her carefully. He noticed how peaceful she looked here, away from the cold halls. "You seem happier in the garden," he said. She tilted her head, her blind eyes reflecting the pale light. "Here the lies are fewer," she replied. "Flowers do not pretend, they do not fear me. They only grow," Aaron smiled. "That is why I like the stars," he said. "They never lie. They shine the same for all." For a brief moment her lips curved again, but then her expression darkened. "The council is restless," she whispered. "I hear their thoughts even through walls. I feel their anger. They do not trust me." "They do not trust you," Aaron frowned. "Why?" "I have done nothing to them." She turned slightly toward him. "That is why, human, you are honest. And honesty is poison to those who build their power on lies." Her words struck him deeply. He wanted to comfort her. But before he could speak, heavy footsteps echoed. Guards entered the garden, their spears glowing faintly. Their leader bowed. "Princess, the council summons you." Her head lifted slowly. "The council never summons me unless there is trouble," she said calmly. Then she turned toward Aaron. "Stay close, human, but say little." Their ears are sharp. They walked together into the council chamber. The robed elders sat in a circle, their faces hidden. "Their voices like thunder in the enclosed space, Princess," one of them said coldly. "We hear you have allowed this outsider too close. You break our laws. You break our trust." The princess stood tall, her silver robes flowing, her pale eyes unblinking. "I break nothing," she said softly. "I only speak with honesty." The elders stirred angrily. One slammed his hand on the stone table. "Your honesty is dangerous," he spat. "Your blindness sees too much. Now you bring a human into our palace, into our secrets. Do you wish to destroy us?" Aaron clenched his fists but remained silent, remembering her warning. His presence was already fuel for their anger. The princess tilted her head, her voice steady. "You fear what you hide," she said. "You fear me because I know your corruption. You fear him because he does not." The chamber shook with their anger, but none could deny her words. Their silence betrayed their guilt. At last the eldest among them spoke, his voice deep. "You are our blood, princess, but you are also our greatest threat. If you step out of line again, we will not protect you." The princess did not flinch. She only bowed her head slightly. "I need no protection from fear," she whispered. They dismissed her coldly, and Aaron followed as guards led them back. But his mind was troubled. He had seen the hatred in their hidden eyes. He knew they would not let things rest. That night Aaron could not sleep again. He heard movements in the corridors, whispers carried in the dark. He looked through the narrow window of his chamber and saw torches moving toward the princess's quarters. His heart raced. He understood now. The council had made their choice. They were moving against her. Aaron pressed his hand against the cold wall, his mind torn. He could stay silent, wait for the storm to pass, or he could act. Risk everything for someone who trusted him, someone who had shown him truth. And as the torches drew closer, Aaron made his decision. The night was heavy with silence. The palace that usually glowed with silver light now felt like a cage of shadows. Aaron watched from his narrow window as the guards carrying torches marched quietly toward the princess's wing. Their steps careful, their voices hushed. This was not a royal duty. This was a secret hunt. His chest tightened. He knew what this meant. The council had decided. They would not wait any longer. They would take the princess before dawn. Aaron's thoughts raced. He had no weapon, no allies, no plan. He was just a stranded human far from his home. But deep inside he knew he could not stand by. He remembered her voice, soft but filled with sorrow, telling him she had never known kindness. If he stayed silent now, she would never know it again. He pressed his ear to the wall. He could hear faint movements. The scrape of armor, the low hum of energy blades. His hands shook, but he forced himself to act. He pushed the stone door of his chamber open. The guards outside were gone, called away for the attack. Fate had given him one chance. Aaron slipped into the dark corridor. The walls pulsed faintly with alien light. He moved quickly, every step echoing louder in his ears. His heart hammered, but he kept going at the same time. The princess sat alone in her chamber. Her blind eyes lifted, her head tilted slightly. She had already sensed it. She heard the weight of the guards' hearts beating too fast. She tasted the bitterness of betrayal. "They come," she whispered to herself. But there was no fear in her voice. Only sadness. The door burst open, armed guards rushed in. Their glowing spears pointed at her. Their leader barked, "Princess! By order of the council, you are confined. Resist and you will be silenced." She stood slowly, her silver robes flowing like water. Her face calm. "Silenced," she repeated softly. "You cannot silence truth." The guards hesitated. Even in betrayal they feared her, but they pressed forward, surrounding her in a circle of blades. Just as the first guard raised his weapon, Aaron burst into the chamber. His voice loud. "Stop!" he shouted, his breath ragged, his body shaking but his eyes burning with determination. The guards froze for a moment, shocked at the sight of the human. "You," one snarled. "This does not concern you." Aaron stepped forward, putting himself between the princess and the weapons. "It does now," he said firmly.
"You will not touch her." Laughter broke from one of the guards.
Sharp and cruel. "A human thinks he can protect her," he mocked. "You are weak, you are nothing." Aaron's fists clenched. He had no weapon, but his voice was steady. "I may be nothing to you, but I am not afraid. And that makes me stronger than all of you." The princess tilted her head, listening to his heartbeat, and for the first time in her life, she felt something she had never felt before. Someone standing for her, not out of fear but out of choice. The guards moved closer, their blades glowing brighter. Aaron braced himself. He knew he could not fight them all, but he would not step aside. "Enough!" The princess's voice rang out suddenly. Soft but powerful, it cut through the chamber like thunder. The guards froze, their bodies stiff. She closed her pale eyes and whispered, "I hear you, I know you. I see the lies in your hearts. I see the fear that drives you, and I will show it to all." The guards shivered. Their hands trembled. One dropped his spear, another fell to his knees. The weight of her power pressed into them, tearing the masks from their souls. Aaron stood beside her, his voice rising. "Look at yourselves. You fear her because she knows the truth, but the truth is not your enemy. Your own corruption is," the leader of the guards growled, struggling against the invisible weight pressing on him. "You will destroy us," he gasped. The princess shook her head slowly, her voice calm. "No, I will free you," she said. "But freedom terrifies those who live in chains." The chamber shook with energy. The torches flickered wildly. The guards collapsed one by one, unable to resist, their secrets laid bare, their strength broken not by swords but by honesty. Aaron stepped closer to her, his voice low. "They will not stop. The council will send more." She turned her pale eyes toward him, her lips forming a faint but determined smile. "Then let them come," she whispered. "I'm not alone anymore." In that moment, something shifted. The feared blind princess and the lost human stood side by side, against an empire built on lies. Their bond had become a shield. Their kindness had become a weapon. Outside the chamber, more footsteps echoed. The storm was only beginning. But Aaron no longer felt powerless. He had made his stand, and the princess had revealed her strength. Together they would face what came next. And in the silence that followed, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the fire that kindness had sparked. The palace shook with unrest. The clash of armored boots echoed in the corridors. The council had unleashed its soldiers. Row after row of warriors filled the halls, their glowing weapons ready, their faces hidden behind masks of fear and duty. Inside the chamber, the blind princess stood with Aaron by her side, her pale eyes lifted, her silver robes flowing like a river of light. The guards who had betrayed her now lay trembling on the floor, broken not by wounds but by the weight of their own secrets revealed. Aaron looked toward the door, his fists clenched, his voice steady though his heart pounded. "They are coming, there are too many. How will we fight them?" The princess tilted her head slightly, listening beyond the walls, hearing the fear in the approaching soldiers, the anger in the council's whispers, the storm of lies that filled the air. "We will not fight them," she said calmly. "We will show them." Aaron frowned. "Show them what?" She turned her pale gaze toward him, her voice soft yet unshakable. "That fear ends when kindness begins." The door burst open. Soldiers poured in, their spears glowing, their voices loud. "Seize her, seize the human," they shouted. The chamber filled with flashing light, but the princess raised her hand gently, and the noise stilled. Her voice rang clear. "You fear me because I know you," she said, "but I do not hate you. I do not wish to destroy you." The soldiers faltered. Their weapons shook in their hands. They expected rage. They expected fire. But they heard only mercy. Aaron stepped forward, his voice strong. "She is not your enemy. She has carried your fear for too long. She could have crushed you, but she chooses mercy." The soldiers looked at one another, doubt rising in their eyes, the cracks in their loyalty spreading like light through glass. The council stormed in behind them, their heavy robes sweeping across the floor. Their voices thundered. "Do not listen. She is a curse. She is a shadow. Strike her down before she breaks us all." The princess lifted her face toward them, her pale eyes glimmering. "I will break nothing but chains," she said. "You fear me because I reveal the truth you bury, but I do not seek your end. I seek your healing." Her words pressed deep into the hall. The soldiers staggered. Some fell to their knees, overwhelmed by the honesty that stripped away their lies. Aaron's voice rose louder. "You call her curse, but I see her gift. You hide in darkness, but she shines with truth. You fear what you cannot control, but kindness cannot be chained." The hall trembled. The council grew desperate. One of them cried, "She lies. She manipulates." But even his voice cracked under the weight of his own guilt. The princess tilted her head toward him. "I hear your greed," she whispered. "I hear your hunger for power, and your fear that it will be taken." The soldiers turned slowly. Their weapons no longer pointed at her, but at the council. Doubt had become rebellion. Fear had become awakening. The eldest counselor fell back, his voice shaking. "She will destroy the empire." The princess shook her head, her voice gentle but firm. "No, I will save it. Not with fear, but with truth, not with blood, but with mercy." Silence followed, heavy and complete. Then one soldier dropped his weapon, then another, until the sound of metal striking the floor filled the hall. They bowed not out of fear, but out of choice. The council, once untouchable, now stood powerless before the people they had controlled with lies. Their voices faltered, their masks cracked, and in their weakness, the empire saw them clearly for the first time. Aaron looked at the princess, awe in his eyes. "You did it," he whispered. "You faced them without a sword, without an army, only with truth." The princess turned toward him, her pale eyes soft. "No, we did it," she said. "You gave me what I had never known, kindness. Without it, I could not stand." Her words carried beyond the hall, through the palace, through the empire itself. Tales spread quickly. The feared blind princess was no longer curse, no longer omen. She was a symbol of mercy, and by her side stood a human who dared to show her kindness. Days passed, and the council was stripped of power, their corruption revealed. The soldiers chose to follow her willingly. The people spoke her name not with fear but with hope. The empire began to change. On the balcony of the palace she stood with Aaron. The stars stretched endless above them. Her blind eyes lifted to the sky. "For so long I thought blindness was weakness," she said softly. "But now I see clearer than ever. And it is because of you." Aaron smiled. "And for so long I thought I was just a lost pilot," he replied. "But now I know even the smallest kindness can change a world." She reached out her hand. Trembling but steady, Aaron took it without hesitation, and together they faced the galaxy, no longer alone. The whispers across the stars had changed. Once they spoke of a cursed princess. Now they spoke of a leader of mercy. Once they mocked a stranded human. Now they honored a friend who showed the power of kindness. And in that moment, the galaxy itself learned a truth. Fear may rule for a time, but kindness lasts forever.